Whoa, 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 this is Mr. Tran with another AP video. So we're going to cover last Friday's FRQ question. Number 1. Oil spills in the ocean can negatively affect marine ecosystems. A. Describe one environmental problem in a marine ecosystem that could result from an oil spill. This is worth 2 points. And then A, part 1. Propose a solution to lessen the effect of the problem you described in A. So these guys are connected, so the 4 points here are all connected to each other. Let's take a look at some of the solutions provided. So again, oil kills organisms by direct contact, by coating feathers of birds. Oil kills organisms when ingested. Oil also prevents sunlight from penetrating deeper into the ocean, affecting producers and causing a trophic cascade. Let's take a look at an example of a student's response. 1A. An environmental problem in a marine ecosystem that results from an oil spill can be the disruption and decrease in plant growth. This is due to the fact that oil rises to the surface of the ocean and shields sunlight from coming in, preventing the process of photosynthesis. So this is a very good description of a problem that could result from oil spill. Again, the producers, and in this case the student just mentions the plant growth, which is acceptable. The oil could block the sunlight from coming in through the water and then blocking sunlight from these plants. Good job. Let's take a look at this example. Oil spill may decrease the amount of sunlight reaching the organisms in the water. Birds may lose the ability to fly if their feathers are coated with oil. So we have two separate ideas here. I'm going to draw circles around the two. Okay, so for this first one, again, oil spill may decrease the amount of sunlight, a good description of sunlight being decreased, but how? There's no further details on how. So again, looking at that alone, the student gets no points here. The second part, again, if this was a separate answer, this one would get the complete points. Birds may lose the ability to fly if their feathers are coated with oil. Again, we know how, and it has the ability to fly because their feathers are coated with oil. Unfortunately, due to the placement of this part, the student gets no points. Again, the reader will always pick the first option if you guys give them two. So this first answer is the one being graded. It gets no points. Part 1. Propose a solution to lessen the effect of the problem described in Part A. So again, these are linked, y'all. So, oil kills organisms by direct contact, by coating feathers of birds, etc. So again, with that, the appropriate solutions would be physically remove oil from organisms with soap, use booms, skimmers to contain the oil and physically remove it before it can affect organisms, use chemical dispersants, genetically engineer bacteria to break down the oil before it can affect organisms. So these were actual examples that we learned in class, okay? For problems of oil killing organisms when ingested, use booms to contain the oil and physically remove it. Oil prevents sunlight from penetrating deeper into the ocean. Use booms and skimmers to contain the oil and physically remove it. Chemical dispersants, etc. So again, continuing, and I use the same student's example because it is linked. In order to lessen the effect that spilled oil has on plant growth, techniques can be used to extract the oil from the area. One technique could be to use booms that trap in oil and separate it from the water, allowing sunlight to reach aquatic plants. Very good answer. Actually got to separate, so removing. Very good, very good. So the second example is the same student that wrote the second example. So stop or minimize the spread of surface oil. protect the most organisms. So it wasn't a complete thought, but it was understandable. It was meant to say stop or minimize the spread of surface oil. So that was their action, but there were no details. Again, generic answers will not get points on the AP exam. So again, could have said like the previous students, use booms. Again, that would stop or minimize the spread. So use booms to stop or minimize spread of the surface oil, and physically remove it would have been the better answer here. So our second part of the FRQ, B, over 70% of the oil consumed in the United States is used by the transportation industry. One way to reduce the likelihood of oil spills is to reduce the use of oil to produce fuel for transportation. 1. Propose one solution to reduce the use of oil in the production of transportation fuel. So this is just asking for 1 point. How can we stop the use of the production of oil, okay, for transportation? So ways to limit transportation. 2, besides reducing the likelihood of an oil spill, justify your solution by describing an additional potential advantage. Let's take a look at some of the possible solutions for part 1. To improve efficiency of automobiles, so again, use less gas or oil, makes sense. Use hybrid alternative fuels, solar panels, electricity, etc. And then use public transportation, and then I'm going to add carpool because I saw that as a common answer, which is true. You use less oil if you carpool. Let's take a look at the first answer. Okay. If everyone that had a car carpooled, we would only need half as many transportation fuel. Even though this is a true statement, we wanted to concentrate on this we here. Again, y'all, please stop using pronouns. We, or personal pronouns. We, us, me, I, things like that. You guys can definitely rephrase your answer to exclude these personal pronouns. Okay, so if you guys are having trouble with this, let's get on Zoom and try to figure out how to reword these answers so we can stop using these personal pronouns. Example number 2. One solution to reduce the use of oil in the production of transportation fuel is to use electric cars. Automobiles make up the majority of transportation oil demand. Therefore, switching to electric cars, there will be significantly less of a demand for gasoline as electric cars run on electricity rather than gasoline. Again, this right here, y'all, is linked to the previous problem. So let's see some justifications for the proposed solution. So to improve efficiency of automobiles, again, that will allow us to save money, and then there will be less air pollution. The use of hybrid alternative fuels produces less air pollution. And then finally, use public transportation, saves money, and also less air pollution. So this is the same student that wrote example 1 for the previous part. So B, part 2, this would let us only need half as many transportation fuel, which would lead to less and less oil spills. So again, the problem here is the us, and then this is good justification, and the advantage, which wasn't specified and was inferred, was the less oil spills. Okay, so again, just the problem with this response was that the use of personal pronouns. So this example 2 is the same student who wrote example 2 before in part 1. So an additional potential advantage to switching to electric cars is the reduction in pollution. Notice that there is a very clear indication of the advantage. It was not inferred, the student outright said it. Reduction in pollution. When gas-powered cars turn or burn gasoline, they emit pollutants. However, electric cars run on electricity that can be produced from renewable sources such as solar, hydroponic, or wind energy. This eliminates the need for combustion of fossil fuels, thus significantly reducing the overall rate of atmospheric pollution. Very good answer. Again, clear descriptions. Moving on to number 2. Nuclear power is an important source of energy around the world. Some countries such as France and Ukraine generate more than 50% of their electricity from nuclear power plants. However, generating electricity from nuclear power plants can lead to environmental problems. A. Describe one potential negative environmental consequence from using nuclear power. And this is worth 1 point. Again, some of the solutions here. The release of heated water leads to thermal pollution. And then the spent fuel rods radioactive waste must be disposed of or stored on site. A nuclear accident could lead to a small or large scale contamination with radioactive waste. And last but not least, mining for uranium fuels leads to environmental disturbance. So those are some of the answers. Let's take a look at what some of the students' responses are. Example number 1. If radioactive waste is put into the environment and can be deadly. So again, this was a response just to make sure that you guys understand. Needs to be capitalized, not a complete thought. So how? How can it be deadly? Look at a complete answer here. One potential negative environmental consequence of using nuclear power is the storage of spent nuclear fuel. Nuclear fuel remains radioactive for a long time after it is used for power and needs to be stored somewhere, and it poses a risk to the environment wherever it is stored. So that is a complete description of how it is harmful. It remains radioactive for a long time. Good job. Part B. Proponents of wind energy argue that wind turbines are a better way to generate electricity. Describe 2 potential advantages other than reducing the negative consequences from using nuclear power of generating electricity using wind turbines. So we're looking for 2 potential advantages. And then part 2, describe 1 potential disadvantage of generating electricity using wind turbines. So let's take a look at some of the answer choices that we have here. So a potential right answer would be wind is a renewable energy source, so it is not depleted, cannot be replenished in a relatively short period of time. Another one that's common would be wind energy generation is sustainable because the source is not used up during energy generation. So you guys can read the rest, but these are a couple of the right answers here. Let's take a look at another example. 2 advantages of using wind turbines to produce energy is that it doesn't pollute the atmosphere, and wind farms are multi-purpose as they can be used for cattle grazing. Wind turbines do not emit any type of carbon or other pollutants, and they are also built to take up very little physical land space, allowing the land to be used for a variety of other necessities. So this answer is a complete answer. It provides 2 advantages, and it describes it in detail. 2 positive advantages of generating electricity using wind turbines is that it is cost effective, and second, wind enables U.S. industry growth. So it wasn't a list of those examples before, but there were no descriptions here. This was just simply the student identifying. What's the difference? Well, difference is details. I can't express this enough. That's the clear difference between identifying and describing. Describing requires details. So here are some of the solutions to part 2 of describe one potential advantage. So wildlife can collide with the wind turbines, resulting in injury or death. Wind turbines can cause noise pollution that can negatively impact humans living within a certain distance from the turbines. The turbines can be considered unsightly. The presence of wind turbines can lower property values, and wind turbines do not produce energy when there are periods with no wind. Example number 1. A potential disadvantage of using wind turbines is the negative impact it has on birds and bats. Because wind turbines are extremely tall and large structures, thousands of birds and bats can be killed as they attempt to fly past the turbines. This is a very good answer. It describes that it can have a negative impact and expanded as in saying that they can be killed as they attempt to fly past these turbines. Very good answer. Good job. One disadvantage of wind energy is that it's very expensive. So, how expensive? The cost, describe to me how it is expensive. Again, the cost of building, the cost of maintaining, how is it expensive? So this gets no points. Again, simply identifying. When the prompt asks us to describe. So this is a key, y'all. To do well on this AP exam, you need to master what these keywords are. Okay, that's it for this week, y'all. Again, a video will be coming out on the AP demo and the checklist, so be on the lookout for that. Have a good one.